Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is on the member tools and reports in BNI Connect. And what today we're going to be going over is we're going to go just a little bit deeper into BNI Connect. We're going to go beyond the home screen and look at some of the reports and activities and things that enhance your membership as a member within BNI Connect. Things like how to email your chapter and how to send a visitor invitation and some of the reports and what you can use them for on a weekly basis. Before we get started with today's content, just a couple of housekeeping things. Today's webinar is a live webinar, so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns as we're going through the material today, please do feel free to ask those questions. Best way to do that is to just type them into the questions panel here in the GoToWebinar software. Today's webinar is also being recorded. You can always find the recordings for the webinars in two places, one of which is on the support site. So right here you'll see a question mark. When you're logged into BNI Connect, that will take you to the support site. On the support site, you'll see all of our upcoming webinars listed. And if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a section called Chapter Training and Documentation. And here in Chapter Training and Documentation, besides all of, obviously, the documentation, you will see the recorded webinars. And we have put up the February 2015 webinars. And you can see the first couple of them have already been put up, and today's webinar will be put up shortly after. You can also go directly to YouTube, which is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, and have a look at our various recordings up there. So we have the recorded webinars. We have things like educational moments and special messages from Dr. Meisner about BNI Connect. So have a look, subscribe to our channel up there, and you'll see tons and tons of material. All right, so let's take a look at today's topic. Again, we're going to be talking about the member tools and reports. Now, before we start digging, one of the best reports that I've seen in the system is actually right here on the home screen. And there's a link to it. So after you log in, you will see all of your activity here in the top in the My BNI Business. And here in the My BNI Business, this is going to give you your last 12 months and your lifetime. The first report I want to show you that you may not even know is there, it's called the Personal Participation Report. And you can see that right here, the My Personal Participation Report. And if you click this, this is a great way to see your week-by-week activity in BNI. So it'll give you your attendance, your referrals given, your referrals received, your visitors, your one-to-ones, your thank you for closed business, and CEUs for one full year. And it does do it week by week by week. So I can look from February 20th, a year ago, week by week, all the way through this current term. I can take a look here and see my attendance record over the past year and check out the rest of my stats. Now, what I like about this particular report is that if you ever find that you have an issue with something in your chapter, you say, you know what, I was marked down as having 2 absences here, but you know what, I was there on that particular week's meeting. This is a great way to look through the weekly stats and say, go back to the vice president. Let them know that, you know what, on November 6th, I think you marked me as absent. I know I had sent a substitute that day, and maybe the substitute didn't show up. Is that what happened? And they can get back to you and let you know what happened that week. If you scroll down a little bit further, you can also see additional information. So you can see the number of members you've sponsored in that 12-month period. And you can also see which trainings you've attended in that 12-month period as well. So again, this is all information that I can tell you before BNI Connect, we used to have to go and make a bunch of phone calls and try to find this information out, or maybe we'd have to wait until our vice president or leadership team decided to print these reports out. Now all of these reports are right here at our fingertips on a weekly basis. Now the rest of the home screen here, this is where you do your online slips and referrals and things like that. So that we cover in another webinar. So what I'd like to do is to, again, dig a little bit deeper into BNI Connect, into some parts that you may not have been to before. Now, up along the top here, you'll see our different menu items. And here's where we have the home, which will take you back to these set of home screens. Then we have network, operations, reports, tools, and admin. Now, depending on your level in BNI, you may or may not see all of these options. Most members, people that are just members here in BNI, would see network, operations, and reports. The tools and admins menu are kind of special menus that you do need additional permissions to be able to see. Now, that being said, network has to do with all the social media interactions, so the groups, the connections, the testimonials, things like that. Operations has a lot of input. So this is usually where leadership teams go to, for example, input the POMS report. It's also where we go for anything that would be input related and some of the tools that we're going to see today. Whereas reports is always going to be output. So reports is where we're going to go to look for information. Operations is where we're going to go to do stuff. Let's take a look at some of the things that are available under these menus. So I'm going to go to operations, and we're going to go to the chapter level operations. Now here we'll see we have a number of different items along the left-hand side, and then when we click on each of these items, you'll have a different set of options on the right-hand side. So we have things like visitor management and meeting management and managing memberships. And again, depending on what your level is and what your position is in BNI, you may or may not see all of these. The first thing I want to show you is I'm going to go all the way down to towards the bottom here and click on Create Email. And these have a couple of the most useful tools that you may want to use on a very frequent basis. When I click on Create Email, I'm presented with three options. I have Email My Chapter, Email Visitor Invitation, and Email Chapter Visitors. Now the first one here is Email My Chapter. And what this does is this gives you the most current distribution list for all of the members of your chapter. So if I need to get an email out, let's say to remind them of the networking event or to send a mass email to my entire chapter, this is the easiest way to do this. I can highlight all of them. I can copy them. And then in my own email program, whether that's Gmail or in my case I happen to use Microsoft Outlook, you can then paste them all into, I recommend doing the BCC line, and that way you don't get 100 different reply alls and things like that. So that would be my recommendation. Put them all in the BCC line, type out your email, and then click send. The next tool that's available here under the Create Email is Email Visitor Invitation. And again, this is a great thing. I use this all the time. A lot of times we struggle. We go out, we go to a networking event, something like that. We're talking to people and we say, hey, you know what? You want to come to one of my BNI meetings? And they either say, well, yeah, we'd love to come, or, well, no, maybe not. But hopefully they do want to come to this BNI meeting, and we need to get the information about the meeting to them. Where you meet, when you meet, what day of the week you meet on, and what's the address, and a little bit of information about BNI. We have a way that you can send all of this information to them, and it's all there for you, so you don't have to type it all out, and that's what this visitor invitation is. So if I click on Email Visitor Invitation, all it's going to ask me for is a couple of little pieces of information. I need to put the visitor's name in, their company name, their email address, and then I can customize a personal message to send to them. It will then take this information, put it into this custom template on the back end, and send it out to the visitor. Now, my recommendation is you try this yourself and send an invitation to yourself so you can see what it looks like. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to send an invitation to John Smith here from Smith Co. And I'm going to use my own email address. And then I'm going to put a personal message. Now, the personal message is going to be the first paragraph of the email that gets sent out. So I can type whatever I'd like here. Maybe, it was great meeting you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral partners. And then I click send. Again, it's going to take all that and it's going to put it into this custom email template that your region has designed. And I should get that any second now. And here it is. And here's the email I just received. You can see it has a nice BNI graphic in it at the top. Then it has my personal message. It was great meeting you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral partners. It then puts all the rest of this information in automatically. So it cordially invites them to the name of your chapter, where you meet, the location is so that they can put it right into their GPS, what day and what time you meet. It also then briefly explains what BNI is. And finally, we have lets them know that they're looking for somebody in that particular category and to RSVP with you. And it's important to know that if they hit reply to this email, it will go to your email address on file. So that's the visitor invitation. There's another email chapter visitors in here that allows you to get an email distribution list of all of the people that have actually visited your chapters. So I can do a search for visitors between a certain time frame. Let's say that our chapter is going to be having a after hours event. We'd like to invite all the people that have come to visit the chapter, let's say in the last 6 months. So I'm going to go back, let's say 6 months or so, do a search for all of the visitors. And now, again, I can copy and paste these visitors and send them an email, let's say, inviting them to our networking event that we're going to be having. Now, there's some other tools in here that, depending on your position, may or may not be of value of you. If you're on the leadership team, for example, your leadership team can create chapter goals and things like that. There's also a mentoring program if you happen to be a mentor coordinator. The one last thing that I'm going to show you under the operations menu is if you click on manage visitors, everybody should see an option. You probably won't see all of these options, but you should see an option that says register a prospective visitor. Now what this does is this actually, let's say that you send that invitation out, they come back to you and they say, yes, you know what, I really would like to attend that meeting next week. You can pre-register them to visit an upcoming meeting. And this is great because it's a lot more professional than just having people, maybe they're going to show up, maybe they're not going to show up. What this process does is it confirms the upcoming visit with them. So when you enter them as a prospective visitor before a meeting, you can put in their position and specialty and what date they'd like to visit. And of course, it's only going to choose future dates here. Their name, their number, their email address. This will send them an email confirmation saying, yes, you are now officially registered to visit our meeting this week. It'll then send them a reminder 2 days before the meeting as well. So this helps to create that sense of expectation with visitors that it's not just another meeting that, at 6 o'clock in the morning when the alarm goes off and I say, I don't really want to go to this meeting after all. It lets them know people are expecting them to be there. It also informs the leadership team and the visitor hosts that a visitor will be attending that day. And that really helps the leadership team especially to say, hey, maybe we can call this visitor ahead of time. I realize that, this visitor is a plumber and we've been looking for a plumber for a long time, and give them a call and say, you know what, can't wait for you to come this week, and I'd like to introduce you to the electrician and to the handyman. They've been looking for a plumber as well. So that's the operations menu. There's a couple of important tools there. Now let's take a look at some of the reports that are available at a member level. So to get to the reports, again, we're going to click on Reports, and we're going to look at the chapter level reports. Now, once you get to the chapter reports, you'll notice that there are a ton of reports here. So there's about 20 or so different reports that are available to most members. I'm not going to go through all of them in the next 12 minutes or so, but I am going to highlight a couple of them that I find to be the most important reports for me as a member. So these are the reports that I use on a regular basis. Again, I am a member of BNI as well, have been a member since 2002, so I still do go to weekly chapter meetings, and again, these are just a few of my favorites. So the first report is a fairly obvious one, but the chapter roster report. The chapter roster report, if I click go, this is obviously going to show us our chapter roster. So it will have all of the members available on it. So if I scroll down, it has all of the members, has what their classification is, has what their company name is, has their phone number. It also gives me a quick synopsis of their POMS report for the last 90 days. It also gives me a count of how many members are in the chapter currently. And then, more importantly, up here at the top of the sheet, we have all of the different leadership team positions and who's holding them. From a member perspective, this is important for me because if I have, let's say, an idea for the president or for the educational coordinator, I know who it is I need to talk to, especially when it comes to things like the membership committee, which you may not always know who's on the membership committee, and you may not need to know on a weekly basis, but when you have that new application and you'd like to either tell somebody some good things about that new applicant, or you might have an issue with another member, it's good to know who the membership committee is. And the same thing, it's nice to know who your director is, and you can find that information on this chapter roster report as well. The next report that I want to look at is I'm going to skip a couple of reports down here, and let's take a look at the meeting notes report. Now, the meeting notes report is a pretty simple report in nature, but its implications are a lot deeper than they appear. What this report was intended to do was to give you a way to take notes during a chapter meeting. So if I click on Go, this is basically just going to give me, very similar to the roster, but it's going to give me their member names, their company, and then a blank space. This blank space is so that you can take notes during the meeting. So the intention is that you can print this report out, and maybe I want to make this landscape instead of portrait or whatever else you'd like to do with it. But again, the reason for this is to help you to give more referrals. Again, to help you generate more referrals in your chapter. If you print this report out and take it with you to your chapter meeting, and as people are giving their weekly presentations, you write down what it is that they're asking for. Take notes either about what you're going to remember about their presentation, or hopefully they're asking for a specific referral and you can write that down as well. Even if you leave it on the front seat of your car for the entire week, the act of writing the information down helps to ingrain it in your memory a little bit more. And this, if you do this on a weekly basis, this will increase the number of referrals that you're able to recognize throughout the week. Now, the other thing I'd like to show you with this report is that all reports in BNI Connect do have the ability to be printed, and most of them also have the ability to be exported. Now, exporting means that this is going to take this report and open it up in Excel or Numbers or whatever spreadsheet program you might have on your computer. Now, most of the reports you'll see two different options, export without headers and export. Now, the headers aspect is all this stuff here at the top of the report. So what day you ran it, who ran it, chapter and meeting notes and things like that. Most of the time, we don't necessarily need this as part of the report in Excel. So what I usually do when the option is there is I choose Export Without Headers. This will then download the details of this report that I can open up in Microsoft Excel and then make any adjustments. Now, I find this very helpful because now you can really have full control. For example, if you don't like the way the report's printing, well, just bring it into Excel and you can, resize the columns and resort it and reorder it to whatever you'd like to do. This meeting notes report is a prime example of that. Perhaps I'd like to, one of my favorite buttons in Excel, by the way, is this Format as Table. Let's say I want to give it a black and white color scheme. And let's say that I'm going to make this notes field a lot bigger so I have more room to write my notes. And then, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to save this so I can keep notes electronically during the meeting as opposed to printing it out. All of this you can do once you get it in Excel. Again, once you get it to Excel, you have full control over it. You can do whatever you'd like with that information. The next report on the list is the Summary POMS report. The Summary POMS report is really, that's the meat and potatoes of your chapter statistics. By default, it is going to show you the last 6 months worth of activity, but you can change this to any date range you'd like. Let's say you want to go back to 2010. You can go back to 2010 if you'd like to. Say I want to go to January 1st, 2010. So I can look up this information for the last 5 years or 10 years, or if your chapter has been around for 15 years, you can look up that information. You also have another option, whether or not you'd like to list the dropped members on this report as well. When unselected, regardless of the date range of the report, it will only show people that are in your chapter currently. So if I click Go right now, this will only have the 48 members of my chapter listed here. And you'll notice here that the totals, though, will include everybody's contributions, including people that have since been dropped. It will just hide the dropped members from this list. We do that just so that it makes it a little bit more user-friendly in the fact that if I choose to include dropped members, there's going to be a lot of people in this list that haven't been around for a long time and that I may not even recognize. So this list just got very, very long with people that have been in the chapter for the past 5 years. But again, the totals stayed the same because it will always include their contributions. Skipping down a couple of reports, I'm going to show you the classifications not in chapter report. Now this is also, again, one of my favorite reports, partially as a director consultant and on the leadership team in my chapter, but also as a member. I always found this report to be pretty interesting. So when I click Go on this report's going to take a couple of seconds to load. But what this report is essentially is it takes all of the professions that we don't have in our chapter. But then what it does is it ranks them by how popular those professions are in my region. So, for example, we currently don't have a business attorney in my chapter, and I can verify that, and I don't have a business attorney. However, I can see that of the 20 or so chapters here in my Rhode Island region, that 6 of those chapters currently do have a business attorney. Now, that information tells me a couple of things. First of all, that attorney is a fairly popular category that's not represented in my chapter. That means that if I'm inviting an attorney to my chapter, I can point to other people's success in that position. So that kind of helps me to promote BNI with that future potential member. The other reason that that information is helpful is that we know that we're not competing with as many chapters to fulfill that position. So that means that when an attorney does come to visit our chapter, chances are they may not be able to join one of the other chapters nearby because that position is already represented. It also gives me an opportunity to reach out to some of the other chapters and say, hey, I realize you may have a business attorney already. If a visitor comes that is a business attorney, just know that we're looking for one, and please send them to our chapter. This list is also just interesting to look at because if you've ever run out of ideas for who to possibly invite as a visitor, especially for visitors days and stack days, just have a look at this list and you will see there's about 450 different represented categories, including things like non-conforming mortgages and trucks and hearing care, energy services, photo processing. So these are good brainstorming ideas for filling your chapter with additional categories. Now there's a ton of other reports in here. I'm just going to show you one more report, and that is the Member Details Report. This is actually a set of 4 different reports. What this report is very useful for is before you have a one-to-one with another member, my recommendation is that you either go to their profile directly or look up this report. If you think back to your member success program, one of the things that is taught in the member success program is that before that one-to-one, you should do what's called a gains exchange. GAINS stands for goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. And when we exchange that information with the other person, we used to be told to fax that information, but when we read that information about the other person, it helps us to immediately develop a deeper relationship with them, to know more about them. So that one-to-one meeting isn't necessarily filled with, hey, how's the weather and who won the sports game last night and things like that. But you can immediately go deeper and say, hey, you know what? I didn't realize that one of your goals was to, how can I help you with that? I didn't realize you were a part of this network. How can we introduce each other to people in that network? So we do that by going to the Member Details Report. We can click on, for example, View Member Gains. And if somebody was going to be doing a one-to-one with me, they would choose my name from the list. And then they could read my gains profile. They could also immediately flip over and read my bio, my TOPS profile, and my weekly presentations. All this is designed to be able to build credibility faster. And for you secretary treasurers out there, you could also use this to pull up their bio in order to introduce them before their keynote or 10-minute presentation. Now finally, if we go back to the home screen, the one last thing I'd like to show you today is that there is a shortcut menu available to you if you would like to use it. So once you start finding all of these of your favorite reports and the things that you use on a regular basis, if you find it hard to remember, oh, that one's under operations and that one's under reports and that one's under network, you can create your own shortcut list for your favorites. We do this by clicking on the chapter menu on the My BNI Business page. So we have My BNI Business, and we go to My Network. This has all the social media things as well as the regional document library. And then if we click on Chapter, this has your own customizable shortcut menu of your favorite things. So mine has a couple of things in it right now. For example, Email My Chapter. I can click on it and get this information right away. My meeting notes report is right here that I can click on it and get this right away without having to go to Reports, Chapter, Meeting Notes Report, or Operations, Create Email, Email My Chapter. It's right here under the Chapter menu. You can configure this by clicking the Configure button. The things over here on the left-hand side are the things that are currently in the list. If you'd like to add things to the list, you just put a check mark in the appropriate box. So if, let's say I'd like to also have the speaker report on a regular basis and the chapter visitor report as well. I also can reorder these. So if I have the visitor registration report, I'd like to put that down by the chapter visitor report. I can just drag and drop it. And if you'd like to take something out of the list, just click the X. I can then submit this. It will save my changes. And then when I close it, it'll refresh my list here. Now you'll see it has my additional items. When I want to go back to enter some referrals, I can always go back to my BNI business. So now it's 1 or 2 clicks instead of 3 or 4 clicks. All right, so we are at the bottom of the hour. What I'd like to do now is to, for anybody that does need to leave right away, I'd like to say thank you so much for being here. Just a reminder that this is being recorded. It will be put up on the support site and on the YouTube channel very, very shortly. I would like to also open this up to questions. I am always happy to stay on these webinars and calls until everybody's questions are answered. So I would like to open that up for questions at this time. While you're thinking of any questions, in addition to the support site and to the YouTube channel, I would also love it if you gave us a like on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. And that will take you to our Facebook site as well. We do webinar announcements and tips and tricks and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook channel. And finally, a good referral for me is if you found today's webinar helpful, please do recommend these to your fellow chapter members or other members in your region. Our very next webinar is going to be in just a couple of days here. We have the BNI chapter web pages. We're going to be talking about how you can customize your chapter web page. If you are a webmaster, if you'd like to become the chapter webmaster, we're going to be going through all of that tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. All right, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So what I'm going to do is thank everybody for being here again, and I will look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful week and happy connecting.